one of the projects I worked on yesterday, and it's been a long one that we've kind of worked through a troubleshooting process. It is a '07 Honda BF40D EFI, and that customer originally brought it in with lacking, or had been sitting for a couple of years, and when he primed the fuel to it to try to attempt to start it, fuel was leaking out of the vapor separator tank. So needle and seat were stuck and the O-rings were bad and whatnot. So ordered all that stuff in, and he brought the boat in. When we took the fuel separator apart, the fuel pump was rusted and nasty rotten and had basically was seized up. There were no blown fuses, anything. We went through the complete fuel system and ultrasonic flow matched and cleaned the injectors, had new strainer screens put in it, new O-rings, and took care of that. Brand new fuel pump in there, OEM Honda, and all assembled. We could turn the key and we would get the initial prime and would lose voltage or lose fuel pump flow while cranking. Computer read everything, scanners reads everything perfect. All the tests checked out except for the fuel pump static test. We could run the test, but it would not turn the fuel pump on. Given location, attempting to test voltage going into the whole thing, quite literally had to disassemble half of the engine to get to the vapor separator. So you can imagine it took a little bit of time. There's no data information on the inner workings of this electronic fuel injection, other than the fact that it's all ECM operated, and that's it. It doesn't tell you anything. You can find wiring schematics, but it just goes to the ECM. So that said, when I can run all the tests and prime into everything, can shoot starting fluid in through the intake and it would actually fire up, but it would not stay running. If I cycled the key half a dozen times, it would run for about 30 seconds and die. So it was it was kind of a head scratcher there. So yesterday, dug our elbows into this thing and ran through with multimeters, testing voltage, tracing wires, continuity tests, locating Honda's pretty proprietary when it comes to their wiring diagrams or color schemes for their operations. Totally different from the other major manufacturers. So tracing those out, the colors on the wire will actually change from the main harness to the first internal harness into the ECM, second internal harness out of the ECM to another junction plug that changes color again to a different operating system. It's pretty fun. Once we actually located, upon testing everything, located what pin in the J1 plug going into the ECM, black with solid white stripe on it. We tested just that wire back probed to the keyed on power from the ignition through the fuse, and I had 2 seconds worth of voltage and it would blank. If I took either side, now if I took my positive lead and touched it to engine ground with my negative lead on the black with a solid white wire, I would have reverse polarity keyed on power to the negative wire. If I did it the other way, obviously I was checking to make sure that the ignition had power when you turn the key on. Positive, correct current or direction of flow, and keyed on power. pretty interesting because one would think if your ground has keyed on power, it's going to short and would blow the fuse, right? Internally. Well, everything else worked fine. Basically, head scratcher kind of trying to figure it out. What I ended up doing was removing the pin from the J1 plug and therefore not to short anything internally in the computer. Ran a temporary jump wire to that black wire with a white stripe, which it had not jumped to anything else. Its operation was to, quite literally was the ground circuit to the electronic fuel pump. Jumped ground just to engine block with another jumper wire, turned key on, water flow into the motor fired right up and runs like a top. That said, I test ran it with hooked up to my scanner with live data, sensor data, everything, just to confirm that in the extremely rare chance that there was just one circuit that was defective inside a very expensive computer or ECM, everything tested perfect. The only difference here is the fact that when you turn the key on now, your fuel pump it's going to continue to flow. There is a fuel pressure regulator that will regulate the pressure and it recirculates in the vapor separator tank. Therefore, whatever pressure it builds, it doesn't overflow or leak. So at this point, it's the only fix unless the customer wants to purchase a $2,700 ECM that's 2 months booked out of overseas to order the thing. So we're not going to do that. Everything else is working, and customers in the know. We recorded everything, and he'll be able to see everything that we went through, the diagnosis tests, the breakdowns, the whole mess. So pretty interesting. My tech ran it yesterday in the test tank under a load. Thing runs great. It's got full power, no leaks, no misses, no skips, no alarms. Everything's running great. So we also did not completely remove the pin plug. So if ever in the future, maybe future owner or something like that ever wants to put that back into the J1 plug, replace the computer, it is still able to do so. So